Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet, voice you know with the news you trust studio, sponsored by BASF, where you can count on the trusted performance of Alevos seed treatment to protect your soybean crop. It's still cold out there. Friday, the United States and Mexico reached an understanding to meet the current water obligations of American farmers and ranchers, and for Mexico to repay the water deficit in Texas as part of the 1944 Water Treaty. This agreement extends the current cycle and the previous cycle's water deficit. Now, farmers across South Texas have been reeling from the uncertainty caused by the lack of water. Now they can expect the resources promised to them thanks to President Trump's leadership. I thank Mexico for their willingness to abide by the treaty and return to good standings with their past obligations. Mexico has delivered more water in the last year than in the previous 4 years combined. Although this is a step in the right direction, President Trump has been very clear. If Mexico continues to violate its commitments, the United States reserves the right and will impose 5% tariffs on Mexican products.
Joining me is Eric Tipton, Fayette County farmer and incoming president of Ohio Corn and Wheat Growers Association. Eric, first of all, congratulations. As you look to your roles with Ohio Corn and Wheat Growers Association, which role stands out the most to you that built you up to say, hey, there's more for me to help represent the organization and other farmers?
Well, I got started here through the Emerging Leaders Summit, which is a professional development type program that this organization has run here the past several years. And at that point, I realized the impact that this organization has on agriculture, not just at the state level, but at the national level too. So that really opened my eyes to all of the different areas that this organization touches.
As you look to your opportunity in 2026, and a lot of work ahead, anything excite you about what you can potentially help farmers help themselves through this organization?
As you look at 2026 as a whole, we have some really exciting things. We are so close on E15 and the biofuel circle. There's so many exciting avenues that we can go with there. We talk about sustainable aviation fuel. We talk about obviously E15, and sometimes we hear some other things like marine fuel and those sorts of things. It's a really interesting space that I think that we have a lot of opportunity in.
On behalf of all the members in the state, thank you for your willingness to take this message forward. We look forward to seeing where you take us in the coming year.
Thanks, Dan.
If you're not a member of Ohio Corn and Wheat, now's the time to get that membership. Check it out online at ohiocornandwheat.org. Today's weather brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
Bitter cold Arctic air in over Ohio to start the week, but take heart, it's not going to stick around here for long. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Arctic high pressure sitting over the top of us here as we start the day. So the coldest part of this air mass is right here, right now. It was cold yesterday morning, will be cold for most of the day today as well. However, as this high slips a little bit farther to the east, we see southwest winds come up around the backside. That should help start to warm us. I don't think it really gets going here until overnight tonight into tomorrow, but tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday will be significantly warmer. With these winds and the bump in temperatures, I expect a lot of snowmelt. Well, all snow melts over the Buckeye State. The only thing that's going to be left is maybe in northeastern parts of Ohio. And as the warm air melts the snow, it's also going to bring in a little bit of rain with a frontal complex trying to come through Thursday afternoon, Thursday night, and early Friday. That's going to bring us anywhere from a quarter to 1 inch of rain across the entirety of Ohio. May end as a little bit of wet snow. We'll see how that works because this system is ushering in a very impressive round of Arctic air again. As a matter of fact, a brutal cold Arctic air settling in over Wisconsin right around midnight on Thursday night. So temperatures are going to rival maybe what we saw or will see today on Friday. But that cool air moves out pretty quick. We move right back into mild territory for Saturday, then yo-yo back and forth on Sunday. I think it all happens without a lot of precipitation, maybe a little bit of cloud cover Sunday early morning to mid-morning. And then we go through next week, mostly dry and warm, well above normal temperatures for the week of Christmas, actually seeing maybe a few spits of sprinkles or rain showers for Christmas Day itself. And then we follow that up with more warm air for the weekend through the 27th and 28th. Definitely some rain there, 10th to half an inch likely for the weekend. That's the way your forecast is stacking up. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Washington, D.C. is catching up to what we've been saying over the past year. The farm economy is struggling, and the policies developed at the federal level can go a long way to change the trajectory. While disaster assistance may be necessary in difficult moments, it is not a substitute for durable demand and real opportunity. That's why the introduction of the Securing America's Fuels Act is such an important development. This bipartisan legislation would restore the full value of the 45Z Clean Fuel Production Credit for sustainable aviation fuel and extend it through 2033. For agriculture and biofuels, this kind of certainty matters. It helps unlock investment, strengthens demand for American-grown crops, and positions farmers and producers to participate in rapidly growing global fuel markets. We are also seeing clear signals from the private sector about where these markets are headed. Major international energy companies are making billion-dollar investment decisions based on access to low-carbon fuel supply chains and reliable carbon infrastructure. Recent announcements out of Nebraska underscore how critical carbon capture and pipeline connectivity have become in attracting global capital and securing new market opportunities for agriculture. Crude futures dropped 4% on the week at the close on Friday. It looks like traders have fears of oversupply driven by potential lifting of sanctions on Russian oil and forecast that global production next year will outpace demand. The International Energy Agency said in its December report last week that despite an improved macroeconomic outlook and the sanctions on Russian and Venezuelan oil, it's still expecting a worldwide surplus of 3.84 million barrels per day for 2026. That was only slightly lower than the 4.09 million barrels per day the agency originally forecast for next year in its November report. Now, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries forecast a higher oil demand in 2026, some 500,000 barrels per day above the IEA's prediction at 1.38 million barrels per day. That's done little for market sentiment. U.S. sanctions on Venezuelan oil have also barely boosted the geopolitical risk premium in crude as the Trump administration carries out a maximum pressure campaign against the regime of President Nicolas Maduro. And the Fertilizer Institute praised the U.S. House of Representatives for passing H.R. 3898, the Promoting Efficient Review for Modern Infrastructure Today, or PERMIT Act, legislation that will bring clarity, consistency, and predictability to the Federal Clean Water Act permitting process. Permitting reform is essential to strengthening America's fertilizer supply chain, said TFI President and CEO Corey Rosenbusch. From new phosphate and potash mining projects to nitrogen production and modern distribution facilities, today's permitting process is too often defined by years-long delays and significant uncertainty. The PERMIT Act legislation provides the guardrails needed to keep critical projects moving while maintaining protections for water quality and natural resources. Farmers need timely access to the nutrients that make crop production possible, Rosenbusch continued. By cutting red tape and streamlining regulatory reviews, the PERMIT Act supports U.S. fertilizer production, recognizes the industry's commitment to protecting natural resources, and helps ensure American agriculture remains globally competitive. Stay tuned, back with market information after this.
When you combine the advanced technology of Enlist E3 soybeans with Seed Consultants' dedication to performance in the Eastern Corn Belt, it's a simply better experience. Our Seed Consultants brand soybeans are hand-selected, tested, and proven to perform in your conditions, backed by the local knowledge of Seed Consultants sales professionals. Bind to better soybeans with reliability and results packed into every variety. Visit seedconsultants.com.
Attention farmers, Jim and Jody Johnson are retiring and their premium equipment is heading to Purple Wave's December 30th Ag Auction. Don't miss their 2024 John Deere ExactEmerge 1775 NT Planter and 2019 John Deere S760 Combine. This retirement auction features well-maintained machinery that's been part of a successful farming operation with equipment located in Osage, Iowa. Everything sells. Absolute no reserve to the highest bidder. Visit purplewave.com for details. Purple Wave Auction, straight, simple, sold.
USDA has released red meat export data for September, which was delayed due to the recent government shutdown. But as compiled by the U.S. Meat Export Federation, September data showed a fairly steady performance for U.S. pork exports, matching year-ago value while down slightly in volume. But September beef exports were the lowest in more than 5 years, with shipments to China effectively halted and exports to other Asian markets also trending lower year over year. Encouraged by the robust and resilient global demand for U.S. pork, especially in Mexico, but also in a broad range of international markets, said U.S. Meat Export Federation President and CEO Dan Holstrom, the situation is obviously much more challenging on the beef side, primarily due to the ongoing impasse with the Chinese government, which continues to ignore its commitments under the U.S.-China Phase 1 agreement. U.S. international losses continue to amount as a result of the lockout, and relief simply cannot come soon enough. Ryan Martin's market analysis after this.
They didn't have skim milk for your coffee, so I just got formaldehyde.
Ugh, isn't that stuff in floor cleaner?
Pizza's here. Would you like cheese on that? Or how about a Crowley?
Oh, no, that's in bug spray.
Hi there. Would you like to sample our new scent? Diethylene glycol.
Isn't that the stuff in antifreeze?
You wouldn't want to eat it, drink it, or even smell it, but that's exactly what's in your vapes. If you vape, quit. If you don't vape, don't start. For help, go to odh.ohio.gov/no vapes. A message from the Ohio Department of Health.
Today's market analysis is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company, excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. For marketing information on your beans to LDC, call 574-566-2113. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished the Friday session lower. As we get ready to kick off another week here, we're doing so with plenty of talk about fantastic South American weather. On Friday, the USDA flashed daily sales of 132,000 metric tons of beans to China, 104,000 tons of soy meal to Mexico, 250,000 tons of U.S. corn to unknown. The Mexico soybean sale was split for old crop and new crop. The bean sale to China was below the rumored 500,000 metric tons that was offered on Thursday, but exporters have an additional 48 hours to report a sale. Additional flash sales of U.S. soybeans to China are expected here today. China did not show any fresh interest on Friday, as they were already enjoying their weekend through much of our trading session. The cash purchases for the week last week should have totaled about 27 cargoes. The expectation is maybe China gets to 9 to 10 million metric tons by December 31st. Again, that goes to a 6.5 to 7 million metric ton total to this point. My math that I have done on the back of a napkin, admittedly not the best way to do it, but I think it's short of that. We will see. Doesn't matter what I think. If the numbers out there say 9 to 10 million metric tons by December 31st, well, God bless you. There you are. So with all that export news, why was the market down on beans 15 to 16 cents on Friday? Why was corn down 4 to 5? Very, very simply, again, the other thing, South American weather. There was a lot of speculative selling on favorable South American weather. And if you're going to talk about speculative selling, you got to look at the chart formations in beans at least. We are putting the exclamation point on a head and shoulders top formation. Key will be the gap on the March charts. It's around 1075 to 1083. If that holds its support, then, hey, maybe we got something better to talk about here as we go this week. If that support fails, next target is significantly lower, and you know the Chinese would buy more beans if the prices move lower. That's just what they do. I'm Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Today's market's brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Overnight, at the open, March corn down 1/4 cent at 4.40 1/2. May down 1/2 at 4.48 1/2. January beans down 1 penny at 10.75 3/4. March down 1.5 pennies at 10.85 1/4 cent. July wheat $5.45 3/4, down 3 1/4. September 5.56 1/2, down 1.5 pennies. In livestock on Friday, December cattle down 57 at 229.80. February lean hogs up 35 at 84.52, and March feeder cattle down $3.60 at 334.07. This is the Ohio AgNet.